What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ask Garrett podcast. I'm your host, Garrett. I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's been rocking with me, like I said, since day one. Right now, we on episode 6. We still going strong. As y'all can see, I've been learning and developing. If you've watched from the first episode up until now, you'll see where their production's gotten better. Everything's been leveling up. So I appreciate everybody on it that's been on this journey with me. All right, so we're going to get right into it. So, before I start, if you want to ask questions and you want me to answer them on the podcast, you can feel free to email me at therealaskgarrett@gmail.com, or you can comment down below. And like I said, I'll make sure I get everybody's questions answered to the best of my ability. So let's get right into it. So first question I have here says, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, past or present, who would it be and why? Now, I've never really thought about that. Let's see. If I could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why? And it's just off the top of my head what I could think of at the time. I mean, I'll probably say Malcolm X, only because once again, he is a historical figure who was very prominent in the black community, and his beliefs were very, quote unquote, radical at the time. Not a lot of people agreed with his methods, but I would want to dive deeper into his thought process. Like I remember I saw this one movie back in like 2021. Regina King, I believe, directed it. It's called One Night in Miami. It was a movie about Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali. It was this movie that they were all in this hotel room in Miami one night, and you kind of got to see a little bit more about their dynamic. It's a fictional movie based on, I believe it was based on a true story, or whatever like that. But it kind of gave you a more in-depth look at how each of these men thought and how they felt about each other and what was going on at the time. And I don't know, like Malcolm X, he seemed like a guy that had a lot to say, and he had the answers that many of his contemporaries at the time were against initially, but it seems like after he died, many of them thought, hey, Malcolm was right. So I would want to see, what he would have to say about certain things. I got a few questions I would ask him. But yeah, Malcolm X, off the top of my head, that's who I would think. And it's Black History Month, so why not? So yeah, I would have dinner with Malcolm X. Next question, it says, what's one conspiracy theory you find fascinating, whether you believe it or not? One conspiracy theory I find fascinating. I find it fascinating, the theory of the lizard people. I don't necessarily believe there are lizard people who take over people's bodies and walk around as them, disguised, or they manipulate political figures. Now, I don't necessarily believe they are lizard people, but I could be wrong. Once again, it's a conspiracy. I don't know. But I do believe there may possibly be something going on behind the scenes of these political figures and these billionaires who run the world, and things like that. That's one conspiracy theory that I find interesting, because it's like who came up with that, and like how do you go about even proving something like that exists? And especially with the day that we live in with AI, even if somebody showed you a video of it, how do you even know it's real? Like, how can you verify what's going on? And that's the thing about conspiracy theories in general, is the fact that a lot of these theories are so crazy and out there that even if you sat down and tried to prove your case, like you presented all the quote unquote evidence that you have of this theory, these theories are so crazy that it's almost impossible to believe unless it's directly happening to you. So it's one of those things where people won't really get it until it's at their front door. And these conspiracy theorists, I believe that's where they kind of get lost, because how do you blow the whistle on something when no one's gonna believe you? I mean, I guess it's one of those things where ignorance is bliss for a lot of people. They choose to remain oblivious to what's going on, so that way they don't have to bear the responsibility of confronting it and stopping whatever's going on. I mean, like, I've been following a lot of conspiracy theories since I was like 13, 14. So I done heard a bunch of stuff. I done, seen some stuff. But once again, how do you prove that? And, once you do prove it, okay, then what? Like, what's the alternative to this? How do we stop this? How do we move past this? I don't know. But the lizard people is definitely, something that I find, fascinating, because it's, and I always ask this question too, like, if, let's just say you were asleep one night and aliens came and abducted you and they did whatever they did, and then they wiped your memory and put you back in bed. Like, how do you even know you've ever been abducted if they wipe your memory? You know what I mean? So, stuff like that is crazy to me. But anyway, so next question, it says, if you could relive 1 year of your life, which year would it be and what would you do differently? I would probably say, and I'm sure many people would agree with me on this, I feel like 2016 was, and once again, I've heard different people talk about this, 2016 seems to be the best year of everybody's life. Like, I've never met one person who was alive in 2016 and they didn't have a good time that year. I mean, obviously, there's always good and bad, but it seems like 2016 was a relatively good year for the world, besides, Trump getting elected. But anyway, so 2016, that was a great year for me. I had turned 21. I bought my first car. I had my first high-paying job. And, life was just generally good. I mean, with the girls and, like I said, the money. And that was the first year that, I'm not going to say the first year, but, I was heavily involved with the music. That year, I started taking it more serious that year. It was a lot, in 2016 that happened that I would love to relive. As far as what would I do differently? The only thing I could say I probably would do differently that year. That was the year. Yeah, that was the year I got scammed. So let me explain the story. So once again, that was the year I bought my first car. But what I was doing, right? I had got my first high-paying job. I was making good money that year, and the job I had, I needed more reliable transportation to get there. So I was saving money up to get a car, right? So at the time, I was looking at getting a 2008 Chevy Impala, because I loved Impalas. One of my favorite groups growing up was NWA, so 6'4" Impala. I just wanted an Impala. But anyway, so the car cost about $2,000. Now at the time, I had just about $2,000 saved up. That was all the money I had in the world. And I was at work one day, and I got this phone call, and it was this Chinese lady, Chinese man anyway. they were saying that I was eligible for a federal grant of $10,000. All I needed to do was send them $250, right? So this was the scam. So I'm like, $10,000? Like, this is more money than I ever touched in my life, you know what I mean, at the time. So I'm like, oh yeah, I bet. So like I said, I was at work. So I left work early. I was like, yo, I'm finna go to the bank real quick, take out this money. I hit Western Union up. So the whole time I'm on the phone with this guy, and he's telling me all the details to fill out for the Western Union form. So I'm filling everything out, and you know, I'm hyped up trying to get this money, right? So I get up to the Western Union teller lady, and you know, she's reading the form I filled out, and she sees all this Chinese, you know, names, Chinese addresses, and she's like, do you know this person? You know, they have to ask that because obviously there's a lot of fraud being committed with Western Union. And so she's like, yeah, do you know this person? I'm like, oh yeah, that's the homie. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, okay. So she goes to, you know, process it and everything. And once she processes it, the guy has me on hold. I guess he goes to verify that they received the money. So he's like, okay, yeah, we got the funds. I'm excited. I'm like, okay, yeah. So when I'm getting this money? So he was like, no worries, we're almost done. Now, all you have to do is send us $750 for some kind of government tax or something like that. Now, at the time, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm getting 10,000 back, you know, what's 750, right? You know what I mean? So I go back to the bank, I take out more money. Oh, now that I'm remembering it wrong. So I didn't have 2,000 saved up. I only had 1,000 saved up. So now, at this point, this guy is asking me for all the money I have, you know, in the world except for my credit cards. So I go to the bank, I take out $750 more. So I come back to Western Union, fill the form out, get back to the window. Now, by this time, it's a different girl. But when I give the girl the form, she didn't ask me if I know this person. She just, you know, took the form. So as I'm filling the form out, though, I got the guy on the phone. I say, yo, if I fill this out, are you sure? If I fill this out, are you sure I'm going to get the money? He was like, yeah, you know, this is the last step. This is all we need. I said, okay, cool. So I get a girl the form. She processes it. The guy got me on hold to verify the payment. He comes back. So he says, okay, we're almost done. Now all we need is $1,000. I'm like, nah, hold on, bro. Nah. See, you told me, I say, did you know about this $1,000 tax? And, you know, now he quiet on the phone. Now he's like, no, I didn't know. It's just, now I'm like, nah, bro, like this all the money I had in the world I done sent to y'all. And now you telling me I need more. And you know, I'm looking at it now, like it's a scam, definitely. But I was like how, like, imagine if I did have, you know, thousands of dollars to just blow. Like, how far would they have went with the scam before they, you know, broke the act? You know what I mean? So it was a whole big old thing. I ended up having to, you know, I gave these people my social. I gave them, you know, all the personal information, but they asked me for my bank account information, right? I didn't give it to them, but I was like looking back on it, I'm like, why was I so comfortable with giving them my social, but not my bank account information? You know what I mean? So it was a whole big old thing. I ended up having to get like LifeLock just to make sure they didn't do anything with my social. So it was a whole big old thing, but I ended up having to, so like I said, I had a credit card. I had one credit card at the time, and I had about $1,000 on it. And I ended up, because I still needed a car, I ended up using that money to put a down payment on a brand new car. It was a 2016 Toyota Camry. One of my, you know, like I said, it's my first car, one of the best cars I had. But yeah, luckily I had that because otherwise I would have been ass out. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, 2016 was a great year besides that whole episode, and that's probably that is the year that I would want to relive. And like I said, the only thing I would do differently there is not take that phone call from them Chinese folks, you know. And if y'all out there listening to this, fuck you. So yeah, next question, it says, do you think artificial intelligence will eventually help or harm society more? Now, here's the thing with AI. AI is right now, the thing people need to understand is right now, AI is the dumbest it will ever be. Like, it only gets better from here. It only gets smarter from here. So if there are not proper regulations and guidelines put on it, then I do feel like it has the potential to do massive damage to our way of life. It's one of those things, I mean, it's a tool, right? So a tool can be used for good or bad, but the fact that we're developing AI at a rate that in the next 5 or 10 years, like, it will literally be able to fully function without the need for human intervention, that is, I don't want to use the word scary, only because I feel like things are only scary because you don't understand them. So with that being said, I do believe it will, at the rate it's going now, I feel like it will eventually harm us. It may not be in the way that we feel. It could be a situation like WALL-E. Like, WALL-E, the humans all went up in the spaceship and the robots were pretty much taking care of everything from the humans. They got fat, sloppy, didn't know how to do anything for themselves. So it may not be like a Terminator situation where, AI is, physically killing us. It could be a situation where they're killing us with comfort. They're killing us by making us reliant on it. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, like I said, we have to make sure we regulate it. We have to make sure we put the proper safeguards up. And we have to make sure that we continue to develop human skills, right? We don't want to become a society that is solely reliant on AI, because that is just as bad as AI developing to wipe us out. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. All right, so next question, it says, if money wasn't an issue, what's the first thing you would do or buy? Well, see, that's a kind of, okay, if money wasn't an issue, so that means I got all the money in the world, anything that I say I want to do, I can do it. If money wasn't an issue, what's the first thing I would do or buy? Well, the first thing I would buy is I would buy a family compound that's big enough for me to have, like 5 or 10 houses on the property. I would move all my family to the compound, so that way, I can keep my family together, but we're not all under the same roof, so we can still, have our own lives, do our own things, whatever. But yeah, I would have a family compound, and on that compound we would have everything we would need to kind of like be off the grid. We would have solar panels everywhere. We'll have our own farms. We'll have our own livestock, things like that. Preferably we'll have our own wells so we can get our own water. So I mean, I would want to set my family up to be as self-sustaining and self-efficient as possible. We'll have our own satellites, up in the sky. So yeah, that's what I would do if money wasn't an issue. And then, if that doesn't work out, then I'll probably just end up becoming Batman or some shit like that. So next question, it says, what's a common life lesson you completely disagree with? A common life lesson I completely disagree with. A common life lesson I'm seeing here is one that says there's no shame in not knowing. So I get what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, like, it's like when you're in school and the teacher tells all the students, oh, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. So that gives people the leeway to raise their hand and blurt anything out that comes to their mind. So when they say there's no shame in not knowing, it's kind of like, I don't agree with that, only because you shouldn't be ashamed of not knowing, but you should be ashamed of the unwillingness to learn. So not knowing something is one thing, but not caring to know is something totally different, especially in the day and age we live in. We have the internet at our fingertips, right? Like back in the day when I was growing up, in the 90s, early 2000s, the internet used to be a place. Like, your mom and dad, they had the office with the big old computer desk and the 100-pound computer sitting in there with the computer chair. You know what I mean? So whenever you wanted to get on the internet, you had to go to that location in your house and get on the internet. So the internet used to be somewhere you had to go. Now we live in an age where the internet is with you 24/7. So anything that you want to know, you have the ability to learn within minutes, right? So there should be shame in not knowing if it's something that would benefit you to know. I always say I have a PhD in YouTube University. You know what I mean? Anything I want to know, I can go on YouTube and find it, in a second. So if you don't know something, that's cool. It's okay to say you don't know, but the follow-up to that should be, okay, I don't know it, but where do I find this information? You know what I mean? So, like I said, I don't totally agree with that saying. I feel like it should be more added on to it. There's no shame in not knowing, but there is shame in the unwillingness to learn. There you go. So next question, it says, if you had to survive a zombie apocalypse with 3 famous people, who would you choose and why? If I had to survive with 3 famous people, so let's first break down the word fame. Like, what does famous mean? To me, famous means someone who is well known internationally, whether that be a good or a bad thing. A lot of people know them. So with that being said, 3 famous people, I would probably have to say, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I say number 1, Mark Zuckerberg. Number 2, I would want to survive with Jim Carrey. And number 3, I would want to survive with Samuel Jackson. So let me break down why. So number 1, Mark Zuckerberg, I would want to survive with him only because he's a billionaire. He already has the bunker. I'm sure that bunker is, stocked up with supplies. He got everything you would need to survive. And on top of that, I feel like I could beat him up. So I have the benefit of being in here with, all these supplies, and, if I need to take over, I could. You know what I mean? So definitely Mark Zuckerberg. Number 2, I chose Jim Carrey only because he's a funny dude, and I feel like he has a lot of life experience that I would want to learn from while we sit and wait and, try to find a way out. And yeah, I feel like Jim Carrey, he'll be cool company to keep. And Samuel Jackson, because, that's you know what I mean? So same thing with Jim Carrey. Samuel Jackson has a lot of life experiences that I would want to hear. I'm sure his story is probably funny as hell. Um, and you know, like I said, I feel like once again he'll be great company to keep. Matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I would, no offense, Jim Carrey, I would probably take Jim Carrey out and I throw Dave Chappelle in there. You know what I mean? Because Dave Chappelle, he gonna keep us laughing. He gonna entertain us with stories and all kind of stuff. Like I said, like I wanna surround myself as much as possible with people who I feel like I could learn from, and they could, like, we could all entertain each other, and you know, it'll be a good time, you know, while we wait for these zombies to, you know, kill themselves off. So yeah, Mark Zuckerberg, Dave Chappelle, Samuel Jackson. That's who I got. All right, so next question, it says, what's one thing you think future generations will look back on and laugh at us for? One thing I think future generations will look back and laugh at us for is, I feel like they'll laugh at the fact we have physical money. I feel like the time that we're going in, and I don't like it, but I feel like the time. My back, hold on. I feel like with the rate we're going, physical money will be obsolete in about, and I could be wrong, but I'll say in about maybe 50 years. Like I said, it could be a lot sooner than that. I hope not, but I feel like they'll look back and be like, y'all actually, you know, held money in your hand. You know how disgusting that is? You know how nasty dollar bills are, coins, you know what I mean? So with everything going digital, I mean, you know, having, you know, credit cards and, you know, digital currency now is just easier, more convenient. But at the same time, I feel like physical money does have its advantages. If the internet goes down or if something happens to your account, then you lose access to all that digital money you have. But if you have cold hard cash on you, then you can just whip it out. Hey, you know, I can still pay for things. So, but once again, I feel like in maybe 50 or so years, physical money is going to be gone. And then, like I said, future generations, 200 years from now, they're probably going to look back like, what? There was dollars, there was, you know, quarters, dimes, you know what I'm saying? So that's just, you know, what I'm thinking. You know, physical money is going to be a relic of the past, and yeah, they'll probably find that funny. So next question, it says, if you could instantly master any skill or talent, what would it be? If I could instantly master any skill, it would probably be the ability to talent. I would want photographic memory. I feel like photographic memory, like the ability to be able to read or look at anything and instantly recall it with, you know, extreme detail. If you look at like all the greatest superheroes, you know, in comic books, a lot of them are like, what makes them great is the fact that they have photographic memory. Like if they can look at anything or be able to recall it instantly, you know, it's kind of like taking that limitless pill thing. But there are some people that really have that. They have the ability to, you know, read something and then, you know, pick up that information and use it down the line. That's a pretty cool skill to have, and I could get a lot done. I could, that would be very beneficial. It'll be beneficial to everybody, but especially me right now. I feel like being able to look back and recall out, yeah, I remember, you know, I was, you know, at this place on this day and it happened at this time. He had a blue shirt on with black shoes with red stripe, you know, things like that. So, having photographic memory, that's a skill that I would definitely love to have. All right, and this next question, it says, what's a decision you made in life that completely changed your path? Well, the one decision I could say I made that completely changed, I mean, it's a few that I could think of, but looking back on it, the earliest decision I can say I made that changed my path was quitting my first job to go to my second job. My first job, for those who don't know, I worked at UPS for about 2.5 years from the time I was 18 up until about 21. And the manager of that job, the manager of UPS, he really wanted me to stay and become a truck driver. And that was what I planned on doing. The only reason why I didn't become one sooner is because you needed to be 21 to be a driver. So literally, right up until I turned 21, that was the goal. But the reason why I quit that job is because I wasn't making very good money at UPS. I got paid well for my age and at the time, but where I wanted to go and what I saw myself doing, I needed more money. So I ended up going to work for a contract company, hooking up satellite TV for DirecTV. Because when I left UPS, I was only making like $12 an hour. And this company here was gonna pay me like, I want to say it was like $16 an hour or something like that. So it was great money. And I was like, yeah, I need to make this move. And if I had stayed at UPS and if I had become a driver, like I'll be swimming in money right now. You know what I mean? Especially back then. This is like I said, this is 2016. I was just about to turn 21. And if I had stayed, it's 2025, now it's 9 years in the game. And yeah, I would have been set for life. But me going to that job and me having the experiences that I've had after that, I could definitely say, once again, if I had stayed at UPS, I would not be where I am today if I stayed there. Because going to that cable job, hooking up satellites, that gave me the skills that I'm still using to this day. And once again, meeting the people that I met at that job, life-changing people. I've had life-changing opportunities. So all that played a factor in. But if you look back on it, it all started from the day I made the decision to leave UPS. And for anybody that's ever seen that movie, Butterfly Effect, where it's like they travel back in time and they change one thing about their past, and then they go back to the future and the future's totally different. I mean, that's one thing. If somebody wanted to mess my life up, or just change my life in general, that'll be where I would say start. Go back and stop me from leaving UPS. And I guarantee I wouldn't be making this podcast. I wouldn't be where I am. I probably wouldn't have my family right now. Like I said, my life would be totally different if I would have stayed at UPS. So that's the decision that completely changed my path. So that's all the questions I have today, y'all. Once again, I appreciate everybody for sticking with me. This is episode 6 of the Ask Garrett podcast. I'm happy to be doing this. I want to continue doing this until the wheels fall off. Once again, if you have any questions you want me to answer on the pod, give me an email at therealaskgarrett@gmail.com, or you can comment down below. Like I said, I appreciate everybody for listening. And, y'all have a good night.